all the trees regarding our gender identity and sexuality. When there's no place like home, empty air, an empty establishment. Friends with Dorothy, fighting for your civil rights. Out on the cruel streets tonight.
I'm joined today by a brace of Jezebel Jocks who are coming to us all the way from the beautiful city of Galway. And I'm first of all going to say hello to my good buddy, Victoria. Victor, welcome to DublinCity-FM and welcome to LGBTQ+life.
Thank you very much, Mick, and thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to chat with you.
We're delighted to have you. And Victor, of course, is joined by that other great thespian artiste, Gio Leminge. So, Gio, again, welcome to DublinCity-FM and welcome to LGBTQ+life.
Thank you, Mick.
I've got to start off with yourself, Victor, because you and I met at the church. Now, not the physical church itself, but the entertainment church back there. I think it was in May when they had the revival of the Hirschfield Centre. I was surprised that you guys came from Galway because everybody there seemed to have, not that you came from Galway, but you had come all the way from Galway. Why was it important for you and Una to come to that event? It was an absolutely fabulous night, wasn't it?
It was indeed. It was a fabulous night. I was amazed at the people there, and particularly for Una, because she went to attend to the Hirschfield Centre a lot, and it has a very big special place in her heart. And when she first came out in Ireland, after living in London for a little while, she came back to Ireland and moved to Dublin. And so she was living in Dublin at the time when Flickers Club was on and the Hirschfield and all of that, and she joined the youth, the gay youth group, I think, or youth club or whatever they were called. My apologies, Una, for getting it wrong. And it was a huge part of her life and really big. And we thought, this looks like it's going to be a great night. We have to go there, and we did.
Yeah, well, that was the first time I had met you, and all I can say is we had an absolute ball that night. We could have danced until, no, I think we did dance until dawn, so what can I say?
Absolutely, we did, yes. And when they kicked us out, we were still on the street talking, and people weren't the only ones. Other people were milling around and all discussing where we'd meet next and what they'd do, and of course, myself and Una were avidly discussing our Jezebel Jocks first event coming up at the time.
Yeah, well, as I say, I was delighted to meet you. I was delighted to dance to the wee hours with you, and you were a fabulous pair to meet. Mm-hmm. And I gather the good news is, sorry, Gio, I'll just say this with Victor. I gather the good news is that there's some thought of making it an annual event. Wouldn't that be terrific?
Yes, it really would. And I heard those rumors as well, and it's a great idea. And it was such a big turnout and such fond memories for everybody, and such the amount of people that Una met that she hadn't actually seen for 30 years because of that, and knew them through the whole Flickers and through the Hirschfield. It was a huge reunion for many.
Well, she must have been just a young teenager when she went there first. Gio, are you a Galway native, or did you, shall we say, transfer to Galway?
Oh, I drifted in about 15 years ago, Mick, from there. I didn't go too far, though. Just slightly over more. What's that?
Where are you from originally?
I'm from Clare.
Clare. The Burren County rather than the Barron County.
Barron County. So I'm rocking on here now in nearly 16 years, I think.
Yeah. We during the COVID, I was fortunate to be able to go around a lot of the non-metropolitan communities, and I was delighted, particularly in Connacht, to see that there were so many vibrant environments out there. I don't like to call them scenes anymore because they're much more than that now. How would you describe the environment, particularly for LGBTQ plus people in Galway?
In Galway, it's definitely not more vibrant than what it was when I first moved up here. Because you've got Belong To, you've got all the LGBT youth organisations, you've got the trans organisations. You know, so it's come an awful long way in 16 years, certainly since before I came out, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, Dublin, if you go back 16 years, Dublin wasn't that vibrant 16 years ago. And certainly 20 years ago, I can remember going into a bar here. And it was quite hot. So I took my shirt off and, oh, no, you're not allowed to do that here. Because that's what I was used to in Australia. And it's still had a way to go. But it has come on a lot now.
Yeah, you can do that in Galway. You can take your shirt off in Galway.
If you're probably, yeah, but usually at the footy. So tell us, Victor, you seem to be a driving force behind the Jezebel Jocks. What's your entertainment pedigree?
Oh, my entertainment pedigree. What a question. Well, I think it might have been about 15 or so years ago when I was approached by before that, I've done quite a lot of amateur drama on stage and the like, but back in, I think it might have been around about 97 or 8, myself and my then partner at the time, Bob, we started organising an event in Pride. We got ourselves on the Pride committee, and we're wanting to invent an entertainment gig, basically because we were both working in the entertainment industry. We wanted to see some queer entertainment on stage. And we invented a night called the Rose of Pride. So it was modelled on the Rose of Tralee, but obviously with a very queer edge to it. And I was MC, so I did a kind of my version of Gay Byrne. And for 4 years running, I was more gay than Gay Byrne, that's for sure. And yeah. I was the MC, and we started off in a small wine bar, Le Gral's wine bar back in the day. And that was our first gig. And they were, not alone did we sell out, we couldn't fit any more people in, and they kept coming in. If there was rafters to hang on, they would have been hanging on it. We had no idea it was going to be so popular. And so many were going to turn up. And it was one of the funniest shows I've ever seen in my life. And people were just rolling around laughing. It was extraordinarily funny. And I hadn't expected it to be quite that funny. It took off. Anyway, so I was interviewing guests, which was a mixture of drag kings and queens. And then they did their little party piece, just like the Rose of Tralee, all just modelled exactly on the Rose of Tralee, and some very cringy questions, just like Gay Byrne, all the rest of it. But the following year, we realised we needed a bigger venue. So we used what was at the time the local gay club, which was in Liquid out in Salt Hill. And we filled that as well. And I decided, you know what? Year 3, we need a bigger venue. So we got the Black Box and we filled that as well. We were turning them away at the door. It was that extraordinary. And the success of it was, I think it shocked every single one of us that were involved in it. It really did. And the amount of help and volunteers we had from everybody doing everything. We went to great lengths for the set drop, backdrop, poster, you name it. And everything was handmade. It was incredible. So after 4 years of that, I got a little bit tired and I took a rest. And a couple of years later, so the next Pride committee took that on board, and they carried on the Rose of Pride. But a couple of years later, they rang me and asked me, would I like to participate, to enter the competition and be a Rose? And it had never crossed my mind, to be honest with you, to be a Rose. But I thought, sure, why not? I can get on stage, I can enjoy the whole thing without having all the hang-ups of the organization and putting it together. So Victoria was born. And the first time I ever did drag. And I actually won on that night as well, which was a great feather in my hat. And Victoria was born. And so Victoria's only had a few occasions to be out at the time. and took a little bit of a hiatus for 10 years. Career and other things got in the way. And with the invention of Jezebel Jocks, Victoria is back on the stage again.
Well done, well done. It's interesting listening to you because I thought it was only people of my age who knew Gayburn as Gayburn. Everybody now calls him Gaybo, and I keep saying, when did he become Gaybo? You know, because he was never Gaybo when I was growing up. But going back to yourself, Gia, you told me before we came on air that you were a singer. So how did you gravitate towards the Jezebel Jocks? Did you volunteer or were you poached, as we say?
Oh no, I accosted Victor after the show in May. That's what happened. Just sauntered up to Victor and says, I want to do this. So,
Yeah.
it's nice to have a different outlet.
Yeah, well, can I put something to you? Because I've always said, and it's just an observation of mine, that if you ever want to make money, there's two things you can do. One is two things that will attract a crowd. One is a fire. People come from miles around to watch a fire. And the other thing is that they will come from miles around to see men in women's clothes. But does the corollary hold that people will come from miles around, and I suspect women certainly will, to see women in men's clothes? What's your experience there?
I think they do. Because it's so different. You don't really hear of a drag king show that often. They don't come up.
They don't come up that often, although.
But I've definitely never witnessed one in Galway. You'll see people. You'll see people in drag for Pride, but that's all you'll see, or maybe for Halloween.
So I was put in my place about 6 months ago by an artist from Belfast called Carl Conilingus, fabulous person and fabulous performer. And I said, I didn't think Drag King shows were that long-standing in the sense. And Carl was very clear, oh, no, you've got this wrong. They go back to the 20s and perhaps even before that. What's the history of Drag King shows? And you can tell me that. I know certainly there were all these clubs in, particularly Paris, the Monocle and places like that. But Drag Kings, other than perhaps the killing of Sister George, it wasn't really that much there in the open compared to, say, drag queens.
I think that they've always been there, and I shouldn't say always. I don't know how long, but we obviously have documentation of people, women in men's clothing for the forms of for entertainment purposes back to Victorian times. So it must go beyond that. It must do. We just don't have much evidence of it. And of course there was loads in the 20s, and again then in the 70s and the 80s there was quite a bit as well. And it's just not as famous or as well known as drag queens, and I think that's purely down to the fact that there's often a gender imbalance in the notoriety or the well-knownness or the famousness of things.
True.
And men do tend to get the bigger applause and the bigger kudos and the bigger names and the bigger well-known and stuff like that. But I think sometimes, and Drag King these days, they're coming out of the woodwork everywhere. New York and London, Dublin, Galway, Belfast and Cork. They're on the rise, that's for sure. And we're all in it together, and we're putting ourselves on the map. And in fact, all of the groups of various drag kings all over Ireland are together. We have a presence together we call the Irish Drag King Collective. So we're all in touch with each other and helping each other out and stuff like that. But I think one of the interesting things about Drag King as opposed to Drag Queen is that for many years it's kind of been more of a subculture and an underground thing. And I think that's why we're not as aware of it, or the general public are certainly not as aware of it, because I think it kind of has dipped and rose over the years with popularity, but also I think it's inclined to go underground for a while and happen in very, very tiny, small clubs and select venues and things like that. And perhaps that's to keep it, I think for many, it's to keep it in a very safe space. For many, it could be a financial thing, afraid to go for a bigger venue. But the Jezebel Jocks are hoping to change things, and we're aiming for a bigger venue this time, since we actually sold out last time.
Yeah. Gio, I want to come to yourself on this one. I mean, even in Dublin, there aren't that many what I would call exclusive venues for LGBT women. I mean, even when I lived in Sydney, there were perhaps two, maybe, compared to the number of venues that were for LGBTQ plus men. What's your experience? You said you moved there and it was a bit quiet, but has that improved over the years, or is it still a bit thin on the ground that you have to go into what essentially would be considered to be men's LGBT bars, or are there venues that primarily would cater for women?
Not in Galway, unless there's actually a specified club night. Like once every so often, there might be a women-only specified club night.
Yeah.
Or you might have to rely on the ladies' soccer weekend.
Yeah.
But it's nearly all integrated.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing, I think, because when I left Sydney, and we're talking about the mid-90s here, the LGBT scene had got very polarized. So there was a bar that I used to go to, and it had a sign on the door saying "Women not welcome." And then, I'm not joking you, I was very upset. And then there was a lesbian club around the corner, and while we could go into that, they slightly hit back by no men's loo. So this is why when I came back here, it was fabulous. Everybody talked to each other. The genders mixed. Everything was terrific. So, but anyway, I want to come back to yourself, Gio. What's the genesis of your name and your character?
The name and the character. Well, Gio, I suppose, comes from Joe, and that's what I've been called normally. And Gisa then is the story of Joe and Minge. That's where it came about.
And it's not based on any particular character, is it? Is it just come from the fertile imagination of yourself?
The fertile imagination, yeah, and a little bit of Jägermeister one night, yeah. Over pride, yeah.
Coming back to yourself, Victor, how much of a role did Julie Andrews play in the evolution of your character?
Well, it was 100% is the answer to that. Victoria is one of my favorite movies of all time, and one of the others is Cabaret, actually. So that's a lot about me, I think. And it's just a movie I really, really love, and I absolutely love the fact that she turns out so well, looking so male, but beautifully male and elegant male, and that appeals to me. And that's very much Victoria is quite elegant. Actually, he might be a little less elegant this coming show, because it's a Halloween show, so there's a little bit of Halloween antics in there. But in general, Victoria is quite an elegant gent, and I had to come up with a name quickly to when I was asked to enter the Rose of Pride that time way back. So I had to come up with both an act and a look and a name and everything very, very quickly. And I just loved the idea of the fact that we're all this playing with genders, and that we're female looking like male, and that Victoria in that particular film, she's a woman who's pretending to be a man who's pretending to be a woman. So there's a double crossover there. And that was huge inspiration to me. And in fact, the piece that I won with that particular occasion, the number that I performed, I started out dressed as a Edwardian gent with top hat and tails, and actually did a strip tease down to a female dominatrix underneath, which gave that Victoria quality about it, the double, I'm a woman pretending to be a man, but I'm a woman, and all of that, and woman underneath. Yeah,
I can see why that would have helped to sell it out the next year. Gio, yourself, I mean, you've got a very, very striking image What did you base that on? Did you base that on any particular performers or any even anybody you knew?
No, absolutely not. No. I'm quite picky about what I like to wear normally, so I'm quite picky about what I want to wear in drag too.
Yeah.
You know, I like the bold colors and
where do you just source your shall we say your costumes in high streets and things like average department stores?
no, I mainly buy them on the internet because they tend to be that bit cheaper, probably better quality.
Mm-hmm.
But usually most of the stuff now has been got from the bottom of the wardrobe. So,
Victor, we're going to come back to the important stuff, and that is bums on seats. Now, the last time you played, well, the first time that we had an outing for the Jezebel Jocks was about May, and I gather it's sold out. This time you're going to be playing a bigger venue, which is the Galway Rowing Club. And we're hoping that that will also be a sellout, but it's also coinciding with Halloween. So first of all, tell us, other than Gio and yourself, who's going to be performing and what can the audience expect to see?
Ooh. Well, if I told you what you'd expect to see, then it wouldn't be a surprise, would it?
Yeah, but no, you could say a bit of singing, a bit of dancing, perhaps a bit of merriment, a bit of comedy.
Absolutely. There will be a lot of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
There will be some merriment. There will be some live singing, especially from Gio. And there's a couple of duets involved.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple of new performers. We have Jock the Lad.
Mm-hmm.
And we have
Ulick
McGee.
Yes.
And of course, the very special guest, Kenny Todgers, will be there again. And we also have a special guest from Dan Singh, who was the winner of our Best Dressed competition back in May.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan Singh is now going to join us on stage this time as well. And we have a few special surprises in store for you. And Gio will tell about our MC.
Okay. So, Gio, tell me yourself, what sort of music will you be, sharing with the audience? Do you have a particular favorite singer that you base it on, or do you have some signature tunes?
I do have some signature tunes. The two I've chosen are two of my signature tunes. One is it's loosely based on myself and loosely based on the story of where my drag name came from.
Mm-hmm.
So it's called King. So without going into too much detail, that's what that one's about. And usually a second one is usually a classic from the 80s.
So when one goes to see a lot of drag queens, there tends to be quite a bit of lip sync. But I gather from speaking to yourself, Gio, that it's full tonsils with you. That there's no shall we say, no masquerading or anything like that.
None, and I'm an absolutely useless mimer because what would happen is I'd probably start humming anyway, so it wouldn't work. It'd have to be a live sing, good or bad. It has to be a live sing.
Yeah, Victor, coming back to yourself, as I mentioned, it coincides with Halloween, and look, who doesn't like dressing up? That's the whole point. Are you encouraging the audience to say, put on their finest or put on their most radical outfits just to come along and participate?
Absolutely. Back in May, we encouraged the audience to dress up as well. And boy, did they. Oh, man. Though they looked hot, stunning. In fact, it was quite a bizarre thing to step out onto the stage back in May. And there was a sea of mustaches smiling back at me. It was extraordinary. It was brilliant. And hats and tweeds and silks and finery and everything. It was very, very impressive. But this time, of course, being Halloween, I think there will be even more dressing up. And of course, it'll be dressing up of all descriptions. There'll be some scary monsters and there'll be some vampires and all the rest of it. But knowing how extraordinary creative people, lesbians in particular, can get when they start dressing up, it usually blows my mind. I really am always taken aback by it's the way somebody will take an idea and morph it and make it become something incredible on them, and put together a costume that you look at and you go, what is that? And and the penny drops and you realize, and there's a whole story there in it, and you can see the whole story in it, and it's very, very clever and sexy.
Well, all I can say is that when people are given a platform or an environment they feel comfortable in, the world is their oyster. What about yourself? Do you have anything special to be dressing up in, Gio? Or shall we say, will they be looking at what you're wearing largely now? Or have you got...
It will be something similar. It'll be totally different for the second song. And I do have a costume change halfway through song number 1. So
we're going to run out of time, Victor. So I want you to, first of all, tell people where it's on, how they can get there, and what it's going to cost them. So shoot away and have the last word on this.
Thank you, Mick. And Una says hello as well, and thank you very much for everything. But so anybody who's looking to come to see the Jezebel Jocks Drag King Cabaret Halloween special, it's all happening on Saturday, the 29th of October this October, in the Rowing Club in Galway. The show starts at 8 o'clock. There'll be a disco afterwards. The door opens at 7. So come in, get a good seat at 7 o'clock and get your drink. And the tickets will be €15. And if we sell out, there won't be any tickets available at the door. So you'll be chancing your arm waiting that long. Otherwise, find us on Eventbrite. Jezebel Jocks Halloween Cabaret.
Look, in the best traditions of showbiz, I'm going to say to both of you, break a leg. I hope you. I hope there's queues around the block so that they'll all turn up for probably what's going to be the Christmas show. So, Victor and Gio, it has been absolutely a delight to talk to you, and I hope to get to over there and see the next show myself. So, have a great Halloween.
Cheers, Mary. Hope to see you there.
Take care then. Right, we're about to run out in about 2 minutes' time, but I hope that went all right.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Mick. And I want to tell you, Mick, as well, that your name will be at the door. You won't be needing a ticket. So if you want to...
I don't know if I can come this week. If I could, I would. If not, keep me posted, and I will always do publicity for you. I'll send you the links to the video, and I will send you the link. If you want to send people out a link to the live interview, that's fine. On the Monday, they'll have the podcast up as well. So we'll do it. We'll do everything we need to get you as much publicity as possible. But keep up the great work and keep up having fun. That's half of the battle, isn't it?
Well, and thank you, Mick, for this opportunity.
Keep up yourself. We're all in this together, aren't we? Look, I'm going to say goodbye now because we've got a minute left. But in the meantime, say hello to everybody for me and have a ball.
Couldn't see the haunted forest for the trees regarding us.